So brilliant, sir. Hello, Cardiff. I'm here with Oliver Cummings, founder, creative director, designer of the brand Valencia Ropa. Is that the correct pronunciation?
That's everything I'd say.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And so first of all, can you just tell us sort of the beginnings of the brands? When did you first have your sort of creative vision for the aesthetic you wanted to put forward?
I'd say it's been about 3 years in the making now, so it's certainly not like the first year. I've just started I think it's been about the first year of anniversary since my first release. I think last February, so it's been absolutely crazy, leading up to it, and working with so many people in between. But it started literally just working in a bedroom, working on a laptop, like any other young creative person would do. You don't have a lot of money, you really don't have the resources, and you don't have any of the skills. And I know something like the media and fashion industry have in common is it's so cutthroat and nobody helps you. You got to help yourself as much. So it's really taught you to mature yourself at like a young age. So that's certainly helped on like a standpoint for myself. But yeah, the brand started about 2-3 years ago. I'd say a lot of it was just designing on a computer. I didn't know how to sew, didn't know how to manufacture. I didn't know any of these things, just like anyone else. But it's really just building your way up, finding your foot. I'd say the most important thing about growing it is your brand identity, because you've got so many brands out there. You can be like a wholesaler, you could be at the next Topshop if you wanted, but that's certainly not the thing I wanted to go down. I wanted to show my creativity. I wanted to show what I guess I believed in and what I thought was a lot of the times I'd look at something and I think, oh, that could be better, or this is what I would want to do, instead of like following with a lot of like street culture and a lot of what's popular right now. You've got Supreme, Bape, Palace, like all of these really mainstream brands that everyone's trying to emulate. And like I do agree, I can see where the passion comes from, but when you're doing something yourself, yeah, you've got to have inspiration, but if it's not your own work, you won't get that satisfaction. You won't get that buzz of being like, I made that. And it's still to the same day, if I'm out in town, I see anyone wearing anything that I've made, I'm thinking, I've made that. That was my hard work, that was my passion. And yeah, it's been absolutely amazing 3 years.
Brilliant. And then when you see someone wearing your pieces out in public, do you ever cringe and see someone you think, oh, you're wearing that poorly, or in terms of you're not styled well, or that's not how I'd want to do it? If they're just wearing the hoodie on with bootcut jeans and some dirty like Vans, would you ever think, not to put those down of course, but just to think, do you ever think, oh, that's not with my aesthetic, that's not with what I wanted? It's fine.
I think I'd be definitely a bad brand owner if I said people weren't wearing it right. So obviously it's never something I'd really think. And to be fair, a lot of the time it's about the design, less about the fashion. Like everyone's you're wearing double denim. A lot of people wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Like I'm wearing all black. That can be perceived in some sort of way. I think as long as you're confident in what you're wearing, if you enjoy it, like what do I have to say? It's not my point. I'm wearing what I wear because it'll either make me confident or it's something that I want to show. I might wear like all white if I'm feeling great, all black if I'm not. I'm feeling all right. I just like black. But no, honestly, you can't put somebody down for what they want. That's their choice. If they've bought into the brand, it could be for 1,000,001 reasons. But the important part is they're feeding into something that I've worked so hard for. And yeah, I would only want to thank them. I think it's a horrible thing to shame someone for their wearing, regardless. So.
And also earlier you mentioned street fashion to street style and other larger brands.
Yeah.
So would you say many of your sort of just not the sort of way you've marketed yourself and maybe your business model in that way, but just this is now purely just the design of your pieces? Would you say you've taken a lot from them, or would you say it's more sort of what are your influences for the design itself of your items?
I think for like every little project I do, it's always different. For the past year, I've been following the Florencia, which is Florence in Russian. So a lot of it is inspiration from culture, and that was like the Russian culture. I think what I love about it so much is it's such a bold, like grasping thing. When you look at it, it's not something you just pass an eye by. You're like, oh God, what does that mean? You can perceive that in thousands of ways. But again, it's one of those things where you choose to perceive it as you do, and that's really my only goal with it. But when I talk about inspirations, I have a couple. Issey Miyake, a lot of other people who are doing it. There's Jack Pond, he's behind Sabai. He's very close to what I'm doing, and even artists like 5EB. I work with him. A lot of models like Jasmine Asia, Ocean, you know, Liana, like they've all helped me, not even, you know, with inspiration sometimes, but just actually like helping me get to the point where I am now. Because without working with people, without like spreading a message, you don't get that same response. You don't get like, not to sound, you know, over the top, but you don't get that success if you don't work with other people. So, but the fact alone that I'm able to work with people that like I have looked up for, like looked up to for years, you know, these are people that I've listened to their music time by time. Like I've followed them, and I've probably had crushes on about half of them. But like it's mad. Like you can't pick and choose what happens in life, but you can certainly, you know, enforce it and influence it. I think as far as brands go, there's a couple. I think Gosha Rubinski is probably the main, you know, driving force behind it. Very Russian,
Football hooliganism and that sort. And you mentioned you're a Cardiff City fan yourself, so that could play into it.
I think, yeah, again, it's a lot of things. You know, if you just you drive your inspiration from one area, you're really just copying the same brand there. But if you're really, you know, digging down and thinking, what do I enjoy from this brand? Not thinking, oh, that's a nice top, that's making money, I'm gonna, you know, flip that, whatever. It's about your creativity, but what you get off other brands, and how they make you feel, and how they make you want to like paint a portrait of a garment, really.
So there's a few things you said there that I'd like to expand on. Firstly, you mentioned Gosha Rubinski pronunciation. I know of the design. I can't speak Russian. That's my only problem. That's my one downfall. Let's say. You mentioned he brings a lot of football culture and football hooliganism over from Russia, and he influences that. There's a lot of, and yourself are a football fan. In terms of, would you ever bring sort of more of that British sort of fashion culture there, the more sort of Stonies or that sort of brand, or maybe Aquascutum, those sort of brands? Would you ever bring that sort of more flavour into it, or is it all very much sort of that Russian, that Eastern European vibe you see for the brand?
Yeah, no, I understand that. I certainly, well, you kind of read my mind, because like what I want to do is, you know, really push this like, you know, very British. I don't know if you heard about it, it's like Slow Tie or whatever, but that is their like driving force of how British they are. And like before, like you've had like Britpop in the 90s, which was like really, you know, popularising and making this whole British thing like really cool now. But like the only thing like Britain's got going for it is like you got the drill scene, but like apart from that, it's not so much a moment to be proud of being British. I think that's certainly something I'd want to bring back. I don't think me working, you know, alongside the Russian text and Japanese wording, I think a lot of that is purely for the aesthetic. I think it's certainly something you can perceive in a lot of ways, but I think a lot of it can be overthinking it. So say if I use Russian text, that doesn't mean I want to, you know, Vladimir Putin to be president. There's no connection like that. But I certainly think there needs to be a lot more like British enforcement and like to be proud of your culture. I in a way I do kind of regret not starting with that. Like there are there's Reckless Scholars, which are very British, you know, Bulldogs and Badges and everything in between. By Slick's another one, and these are all great brands. And again, that would be something where I'd want to, you know, drive, you know, that my inspiration and put it into my designs. I don't know if it would be more so about being Welsh though. I think when people describe being British, it's usually quite an English thing. And, you know, I love London, and don't get me wrong, England's like a great country, but Wales has certainly got something so more of its own. And we're like swallowed up by England. And I think the amount of culture, and less so of the Welsh language, but the actual, like, if you ever go down to watch Cardiff play or Wales team play rugby, you'll know what it is to be Welsh.
Yeah.
It's like the Scottish, the Irish, they're all nutters in their own way, but it's what makes them nutters is the best part. You know, that's what I want to take and put it into my brand.
Brilliant. And then you mentioned Slow Tie. You've worked and in terms of Mercury Award nominated as well. He has that sort of gritty, sort of street style to both his aesthetic and his music itself. And I know you've also had Artist Model for you in the past. I believe pronunciation is Younger One. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Two X's. I know the X's. And I've done Xbox gamer tags. I know the X's. In terms of what was it like? What is it like working with other artists? And are you, when you looking to almost cross almost mediums from music to fashion, are you looking for someone whose music more speaks to your aesthetic, or are you simply looking for someone with a large reach? What are you looking for?
Well, I'll just say to start with, like, to work with, like, say his name's Tim, and he's a super sound guy. He's so nice. And just to work with somebody, you know, it's so strange because you feel like you know them, you've never talked to them, listening through their music, or even like, you know, following their Instagram, and just you keep looking at their feed or anything like that in between. I mean, it took me a while to really start working with people. You do have to establish yourself to a point where these people do want to work with you, because that's what they did. They made themselves, and now they want to work with other people. But you obviously got to have a bit of establishment behind you. Working with Tim, I actually ran into him when he used to work in Foot Locker in town. So that was crazy, and I actually didn't know who he was at the time. And I was with my mate Pat, and he was saying, "Oh, this is Tim, or whatever." And then he's a really cool guy, and I didn't think much of it. Afterwards, he showed me his Instagram. He's got like 60,000 followers. He was verified and all this. And this was way ago. This was before he had a million songs on him.
Before the TikTok song took off.
Yeah, before Tyler, really. So that was crazy. Seeing that on its own. But we met up a couple of months ago for my restock on my Rhinestone hoodies, and he modelled for it, and he's a super nice guy. And I think the strangest part sometimes is you envision certain people, especially celebrities or people you look up to, as almost like on a god tier, somebody who you don't think would be just like you, but in fact they're more like you than you would have ever thought, because they actually are humans. And this is going to sound it can sound very like far-fetched and quite dumb, but when you've got somebody, like I said, you've really known but not known, and like when you meet them and you realize that they're actually a normal person, like their success paints a portrait, it paints a picture of, I guess, who the media and the large society wants them to be perceived as. But when you dig down to like a deeper level, they are just like normal people. So like Tim was one of the first big people I worked with. There's been plenty of other people. I'd say the first big model was Ocean Lewis. She's done honestly so much for me. She certainly like helped me along and give me advice here and there. She's got her own brand as well, which is really impressive. She's so talented. And but yeah, it's amazing when you get big people wanting to help out and work with littler people, even though they're not gonna get as much out of it as I am. I think when two almost different communities can come together, it's an amazing thing. And working with, well, I won't put it lightly, when you're working with your idols, it's such a so different. The feel of it is it's next to none. And then you realize that, like I said, that they're normal people, and then it's like you don't see them as like your idols anymore, but you just still look up to them just as much. And if anything, you gain more inspiration from that, because they have been making and crafting their own products into perfection, and being an actual human at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
No,
but
it makes perfect sense.
yeah, no, it's been crazy.